so much about gaming mice. But then, two things happened. First, the industry took a bit of a weird turn. It was around 2020, but we'll come back to that. The second thing though is that I got old. And when I say I got old, I'm talking about reaction time. I was like 37 when Aim Labs first came out, and they had this reaction time test. And I remember getting a score of about 160, 170 milliseconds. And this is a test that has nothing to do with skill. It's just reaction time. When you see a blue thing pop up, you just click the mouse. There's no aiming, there's no tracking. It's just how long did it take you to see the ball and click. And this was a time when I played a lot of shooters. I was a Masters Overwatch player for a few seasons, and 160 millisecond reaction time was pretty good. But then when I turned 40, I distinctly remember using Aim Labs and seeing that my reaction time had gone slower. Now I'm 45 and my reaction time is like 230, sometimes 240 milliseconds. It's not good. I feel like this rate is just like a matter of time before I'm at like 500 milliseconds. And I found that my appreciation for high-end gaming mice was inversely proportional to my reaction time. Like as my reaction time crept up, my interest in top-tier gaming mice just went down because a lot of those features are really focused on high-end, super fast reflexes. Things that would benefit like a kid who's got cracked out neurons and he's at 110 milliseconds. But for me, with my 250 millisecond dad neurons, I just didn't feel like it would help much. And it's normal, right? As we get older, our visual reaction time just gets worse. Now, at the beginning of the video, I mentioned that in 2020, I feel like the industry took a bit of a turn. And this was the year that this mouse came out. So this was the Logitech G Pro Superlight, and this was an amazing mouse. This was almost perfect to a lot of people. It was very lightweight, 60 something grams. It has an awesome sensor, great battery life, and a pretty good shape for its time. So many people still love and use this mouse, but since 2020, I feel like the industry fell off. It's been 6 years where there just hasn't been much innovation. There's been a ton of marketing. We're seeing sensors with higher and higher DPI when we've had like perfect tracking since 2018, and we're seeing companies push 4,000 and then 8,000 hertz polling rates when even pro gamers are just using 1,000 hertz because that's just what they prefer. And we went through a phase when companies were so desperate trying to shave weight off mice that they were just poking holes in the shells to lower that number. And all of these mice features and properties were designed just for marketing. Like when you have a measurable empirical number that you can flex and be like, hey, our number is better than the other company, you should buy our mouse. Like that's when the industry is kind of weird. And the whole time during those 6 years, you have professional gamers using super old mice to win tournaments. It's kind of like athletes, like professional athletes, like hockey players, tennis players, they will use equipment that's older, sometimes like 10 years old, but the companies that sponsor them will paint their hockey sticks or their tennis rackets like the new ones so that people will buy the new ones, but the pros just use the old ones because that's what they're used to. That's what they prefer. So when Logitech announced this mouse, their G Pro X2 Super Strike, I was like, nah, it's gotta be a gimmick, right? Because this thing's claiming a reduction up to 30 milliseconds on your click. So it uses a new haptic feedback system, kind of like Apple's trackpads, but instead of a mechanical switch for the click, it uses an inductive sensor that measures your input with electromagnetic coils, and they call this their haptic inductive trigger system, or HITS. And you can adjust the mouse buttons individually on the left and the right. And the thing is, this mouse doesn't actually click. It feels like you've clicked it because there's a motor underneath each button that kind of thumps up at your finger when you press it to simulate the sensation of a click, but there is no switch in there that's actually doing any clicking. It's just the sensation. Like you can kind of hear it, but when you turn the mouse off, the mouse buttons just become like dead paddles. They don't make any more sound, and you don't feel a click anymore. So when I got it in, I wanted to know, can this do what it claims? Can it reduce my click latency by 30 milliseconds? I fire up Aim Labs and I'm testing my regular mice just to kind of get a feel for it. And there I am, Unc2D with his 240 milliseconds. And then I swap to this mouse, I adjust the click to the fastest setting, and I got a 214. First try, fresh out of the box. So I swap mice back and forth a few times just to see if it's real, and this legitimately brings down my click latency by like 20 milliseconds, I'd say, at the very least. So I hopped into some games. This is Marvel Rivals, and the Spider-Man character is very mobile. He can zip around and do all this acrobatic stuff in the air, and a good Spider-Man is really hard for me to kill. This guy was a Grandmaster 1 player, pretty good on Spidey. My aim isn't great, I'm a Platinum player, but after playing a few games on this thing, I'm 100% confident that this makes a difference. If I had to describe it, like for me, I just feel like I have faster reaction time, as if I was 5 or 6 years younger. It sounds crazy, but this is just how this mouse feels for me. Now, does it give you better aim? No. Does it give you better tracking? You could argue that, because on this mouse, if you set the sensitivity really tight so that you just have to press lightly on a mouse, like when you're, I don't know, if you're like Zarya in Overwatch, or if you're just like ADSing and you're trying to track something while pressing a mouse button, you don't have to put as much like flex and tension on your hand to do it. So you could argue the tracking's a little bit better with it. But I need to stress this point. Game skill and like your aiming capabilities are way more important than any kind of hardware upgrade. Because if you have terrible aim and you were gonna miss the shot, you're just gonna miss the shot even faster with this mouse. But if you had decent aim and the only reason why you missed is because your reaction time was a little bit too slow and you just clicked a little too late, this has an impact. A thought I had about the durability, the M1 and M2 buttons are gonna be basically immortal because it's a sensor. It's like a traditional Switch has moving parts, it's metal on metal that wears out over time and you just get double clicks and stuff. But this, it just doesn't have those kinds of moving parts, so I feel like this will last so long. There are a couple things about this mouse that I don't love. The big one is its shape. So this shape is it's the Superlight shape, right? Just like the Superlight 1 and Superlight 2, this mouse is built to be a universally enjoyable experience. So different hand sizes, different grips, it's all built to be like usable on this mouse. But because of that, it feels kind of like a generic potato sometimes. The other thing I don't love is the way that the button feels after it actuates. So on this mouse, I've set it so that it's at the fastest actuation. So it clicks, immediately just a little bit of pressure, it actuates. But right after you click, or the system thinks you've clicked, there's still a lot of like travel on that mouse button. And I find that it feels a little spongy because you've clicked it, the system thinks you've clicked, it knows you've clicked, but now the button is still traveling. But on an old mouse, or like a typical mechanical Switch, once you, like because there's so much pre-travel, you don't feel like it's spongy. Then once you've clicked, it almost bottoms out from that click and you feel like an immediate stop on the click. But here, when you do that click, I mean, this is super sweaty, but just in case you care, when you do that click, there's spongy movement almost after that click. But everything else about this thing is pretty damn good. Now, this has been the first mouse in, I want to say like 6 or 7 years that I would just recommend. It's an awesome mouse. It is, however, super expensive. This comes at $180. It's the most expensive gaming mouse I think Logitech has made. But it's the only mouse right now that does this. They have a patent on this technology. I imagine that this, or something like this tech, will appear in other brands over time. I just don't know how you get around that patent, because otherwise everyone just has to get this if you want this advantage. But there you have it. This is the new Logitech G Pro X2 Super Strike, and it is a very cool technology.